Hello, everybody. Today we're working on two specific skills: rounding and place value. I know that I have it written as bridges and that we would be on session 6, but really we're not. These two lessons come out of our Number Corner book, and that we have not had a chance to work with these two lessons. So let's go on to this question and let's think about what this means. What does it mean to round a number to the nearest 100,000, to the nearest 10,000, and to the nearest thousand? Today, you're going to play a game that will help you practice these skills, but we have to understand first what it means. So, the number we're working with in our game is this number here. How would we pronounce that? I want you to think about it. So, there it is. So, really, we need to think about what each digit in a number means. I want you to think of our number as having families. So, for example, we would have this one, this little family between the comma all the way to the end. When we think of this number, how would you pronounce it? I know some of you are already pronouncing it, but think about it. How would you pronounce that? And then do you see how this red mark goes specifically to the number 4? If you were thinking about 4, how would you represent it using our base 10 pieces? Do you remember what those little bitty base 10 pieces are called? So I hope you remember that it was units. So if we're talking about this group of three numbers, 284, we're thinking about them in units. But we don't say 284 units. We just understand that it's 284. So basically, we can just cross that off because we don't use the word units when we're talking about the numbers in this section. Now, moving on to the middle, we have another group of three numbers. Let's do those. How about in, green? Okay. So we're going to look at this group of three numbers. Remember, this group of three numbers we thought of as units, 284. But now between this comma and this comma, we have a new group of numbers. It's like a family or like a last name. And we would think about what is in this column. So if we were thinking about this 7 compared to the rest of the number, what does that 7 represent if you were going to pronounce it? Did you think of the word thousands? 7,000s or 7,284. If we look at this whole part underlined in green, we would think of this as one number, 537,284. We don't pronounce it 5,000, 3,000, 7,284. Or we don't pronounce it as 500,000, 330,000, 7,284. We combine this as one number, 537,000. See the comma? 284. So that leaves us to this last section. And let's underline that in yellow. Hopefully you can see that at the back of the room. So there's our number. Notice how we have a line that we're going to label. It's like this is a new family. Remember, this is the units, this is the thousands, and this is the, do you know it? I bet you do. It is the millions. So we pronounce this one as 65 million. Now we pronounce these three numbers before we add the last name, 537,000. Then we pronounce the last three numbers. So first of all, before we can play our game, we have to understand where the 100,000s, the 10,000s, and the 1000s are in a number. Going back to the number that we saw first, this number 571824. Think about this. How would we pronounce that number? I don't have a comma in there, which would make it more difficult too because it helps us see the families. But we know that we think of our numbers in groups of 3. So when we pronounce this number, we can see that here's our units, here's our thousands, and if we had numbers to the left, we would have millions. So first of all, we would look at this number and pronounce it. 571,824. So this number is pronounced with these three numbers, the comma, these three numbers. Okay, so our 100,000, that's the 5. The 10,000, that's represented by the 7. The 1,000 represented by the 1. Okay, I told you also that we are going to do some rounding. So I want you to think about rounding like this. Numbers go from smaller to larger on a number line. And if we use the number from the last slide, 571,824, if we are going to round this to the nearest 100,000, in other words, this digit, we would look at where this number would be placed on this number line. So if we look at the 571,000, is it closer to 500,000 or is it closer to 600,000? So when we think about it, right about there's the middle. That's pretty close. So if we look at where 571,000 would be, it would go, right about there. So we can see if we're rounding to the nearest 100,000, this is the number it's closest to. Okay, we have other numbers under here. What about this number? 599,897. So if we're looking at this number, what is it closer to? The 500,000 or the 600,000? You can see that it rounds to 600,000 because on the number line, it is much closer. As a matter of fact, if we were drawing a line, it'd probably be right about there. Maybe even closer than that. Okay, our next number underneath our slide is 549,665. How would we place this one on our number line? Is it closer to 500,000? Is it closer to 600,000? Well, what we check is the number to the right of the place value we are rounding to. Since we are looking at the 4 would take us before this middle. So it would round to 500,000. Remember, this is all based on placement on your number line. So let's see, how about orange? So this number would be very close to our halfway point, but it's still not halfway, so it still would round down to 500,000. We have another number hiding out underneath here. Let's look at this one. Is this number closer to 500,000 or 600,000? Where would we put it on the number line? I bet you can see that if this one is smaller than the 549,000, so it definitely would round to 500,000. And then we have our last number. 552,310. That's really close to the middle again. How do we decide? Okay. Do you remember when you were in third grade and I know some of your teachers taught you to think of rounding as a big hill? And if it's five or bigger, you round to the larger number. And if it's four or smaller, you round to the smaller number. Well, that's what you're thinking about. We look at the five, and the five would take us more than halfway. So it would round to the larger 600,000. Okay, getting into our game. I've already placed the number that we're working with from the other slide, 571,824. Notice that we now have to figure out our target number, the hundred thousands. So I have that hiding out right here, and we'll move it up. And what we do next is that we have to roll our numbers. When we roll our numbers, we will assemble the 6 digits to try to form a number closer to the 600,000 so it can round to 600,000. So let's see what kind of numbers we can roll. Okay. So now let's think of the strategies. We want a number to round to 600,000. Think about that. We want it to be over halfway between 500,000 and 600,000. Let's look at our digits again. We have a 5, a 3, a 3, a 6, and a 9. Well, if we would start with these numbers, and started with a 6, I want you to think about that. For it to be 600,000, we would want the number so that it rounds to this. If I would continue my number line on from 600,000 to 700,000, when we would place our number on this number line, it would have to be less than the halfway point between 600 and 700,000. So think about the halfway point. That would be 650,000, just like the halfway point here is 550,000. So it looks like we have a lot of options. We could create a number that looks like this, where it would be 596,633. So there's our number. Let's make it smaller so it fits. Okay, so there we go. Let's look at our number line. If we had the number 596,633, that's very similar to this number, and we know that this number rounded to 600,000. So we have rounded to 600,000. Let me type that in. Yes, I miss my doc cam. That made math go so much faster. But this is what we have to use now. Since Team 1 got to 600,000, that means that we would get a tally because we were able to get the number we needed. Let's give ourselves a tally. Okay. So now Team 2, we could figure it out that I can be Team 1 and you can be Team 2. What you think? Or is it that the girls are Team 1 and the boys are Team 2? You guys can decide that right now. Give you a few moments. Pause the video if you need to. Okay. Regardless, I'm on Team 1, whether it's me all by myself or the girls and I against you boys out there. Okay, we're going to do our rolling of our numbers. Okay, and here are the numbers and we want to create a 6-digit number that we can round to 600,000. I want you to look at this. Can it be done? If I start with a 2 in the 200,000s place, is that going to be a large enough number? If I start with a 3 in the 100,000s place, is 300,000 enough? What about 4? Is 400,000 enough? And then we jump to 800,000. So it looks like Team 2 didn't get such a good roll. So let's write their number as close as we can get it, which would be a 498,322. Okay, sorry about the phone call there. So when we look at our number of 498,322, we still have to round it to the 100,000s. So looking at our 400,000 and our 90,000, is that closer to our 500,000 or is it closer to the 400,000 if we had a number line? Okay, so I hope you understand that it rounds to 500,000. But it didn't round to our target number. Sorry, Team 2, you don't get to have a tally. So let's go to our target number for our 10,000s. Going back to this number, we have the 5, we have a 7, we have a 1. Looking at this, 571,000. We're looking for the number in the 10,000. So this is 500,000, 700 or 70,000, 1,000. The 7 is in our 10,000s place. So when we round that, we need to look to the number to the right, and that is a 1. Please notice all these zeros in here. Once we round one of the digits, everything to the right turns into a 0. I wouldn't just put a 0 where the 1 is and leave the 824. All of that turns into a 0. So I am rounding. I know that, get our number chart up. I know that it's going to be in the 500,000s. So I have to decide, is it going to be 570,000 or is it going to be 580,000? Well, looking at the thousands column, it is going to stay at 570,000. So here's our number. It's called our target number. Let's make it smaller so it fits. Maybe since this is a different round, let's put it as a different color as well. Okay, so we'll move that down here. So now we have our green round. Okay, so those of you who are rooting for Team 1, here we go. Here's this roll, and here's that roll. So when we look at our numbers, we want to arrange our numbers so that they can round to 570,000. Ooh, it looks like things are looking my way. Those of you out there, before I create this number, can you create a number that rounds to 570,000? Pause the video if you want to have a discussion on this. Okay, so I want to create a number that has 570,000. Well, look at this. There's a 5. So I can put the 5 there. Then there's a 7. I can put the 7 in the 10,000s place. Now, to make certain that it rounds to 570,000, I need to look at what I'm putting in the 10 or in the thousands place. What number can I put here so that it rounds down to 570,000? Pause if you need to. Otherwise, I hope that you figured it out. I have a 3 I can use. So now I have to use the rest of my numbers. And does the order really matter? It doesn't, because we look at the 10,000, we're at the 10,000s, round and checking out what is in the thousands. The thousands column determines what we round to in the 10,000s. I know that sounds a little confusing, but it's the way it is. Okay, so make certain I have the right number. We have 2 3s, we have a 6, we have 2 7s, and a 5. Okay, done. And that's right, we're making this green. Let's make it a little smaller so that it fits. And yes, team 1, we can round it to 570,000. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, team 2, look at that. We have 2 tallies, but it's not too late for you. We wish you luck, team 2. Let's see what you are able to roll. So we toss the dice and we toss the dice. Remember what we need to do to change our number to 570,000. Looking at what we did up here, look at that. You have a 5, you have a 7. Okay, do you have numbers that will work? What kind of combinations can you come up with? Pause the video and talk about it. So, the number that I created for you, does it work? Did anybody create this number? Looking at it, there we have 574,479. Looking at our number line, we know that it is less than the 550,000 mark. So that, never mind, disregard what I just said. That was for our 100,000s. Okay, so let's round that. We know what it rounds to. So team 2, looks like you get to have a tally as well. Okay, I'm going to pause the video to get everything caught up. Okay, team 2, it's not too late. Who knows what you'll be rolling in round 3. So let's do a quick review. Again, looking at our 100,000s, our 10,000s, our thousands column. So now we're working with rounding to the nearest thousand. No matter what numbers are on this other side, we are rounding to the nearest thousand. So we need to look to the number that is at the right of the thousands, which is the hundreds column. Remember that if it is 5 and higher, you round up to the next number. If it is 4 and lower, you stay at that number. So let's see what we roll. First we have to determine our number. So we know our number is 571,824. The 5 goes in, the 7 goes in. Now we're at the thousands column, which means we look at the hundreds to decide if it stays at 1,000 or if it is closer to 2,000. Looking at the 800, if we would place it on a number line, 800 is closer to the next 1,000. That would raise this to 2,000. Put our comma in. Notice that everything else filled in as zeros. So we're rounding to this number. These turn into zeros. Let's make it red. This will be the red round. Okay, we'll get our target number in place. Okay, so here we go. We toss the numbers and toss the numbers. Is there a way for us to round to 572,000? Well, team 1, doesn't look like we can do it. Pause the video and see if you have any possible combinations, but I don't see any. Okay, here we go, everyone. Looking at this is the lowest number that I can create. Although I suppose, we came close, but look at the number we need to round to. The 500,000 is good. The 70,000 is good. But we need to round to 2,000. And I didn't have that low of a number. So the lowest number I can round to is this. So you can see we didn't get it this time. Well, team two, here you go. Who knows? Maybe you'll get it this time. I'm going to I'm going to toss the dice and toss the dice. And let's see if you can create something that rounds down to 572,000. Oh, goodness. I'm going to have you pause the video, see what you can discuss, see if you can find anything. Well, team two, did you figure out anything? Doesn't look like very promising, does it? What kind of numbers what can you round this number to? Okay, pause the video, come up with an idea of how we can round this number to the nearest thousand. Okay, if I would have arranged my numbers in a different manner, would have we reached our target number of 572,000? Yes or no? Yeah, it just wasn't in the cards for you today. So I want you to think of these questions at the very bottom. Think of at least two more numbers that you can make that round to each of your target numbers. What is the highest number that rounds to your target number in the hundred thousands? And what's the lowest number that rounds to the 100,000s? And then I want you to think about it. Hundred thousands, 10,000s, or thousands. Which would be the easiest to round numbers to if you would roll 6 different dice? Take a moment to discuss this. Okay, so again, when you are thinking about placing your dice to form a number, you need to think about how it will round to a certain number, and that helps you decide which place to put each of the dice. Since I'm playing this virtually with you, I have to use the tools that are there for me. But those of you in class, you're going to get the actual 3 black and white dice and the 3 red and white dice. And then as these numbers are arranged up here, you can actually move the dice so that they are right there for you. And you can move them around to see which combination works the best for you. I'm going to go through one more exercise with working with large numbers, and then you will have some time to play this game in your number corner book. So this game will be played with partnerships on your tables. Okay, let's move on to our other exercise. Okay, again, we're still talking about large numbers. So place value helps us understand numbers. It is important to know how to read and write numbers in different ways. Now, I want you to think about how I had you pronouncing fractions and pronouncing decimals. It's important to understand what I mean when you say the number versus saying the word. So when I say pronounce it, think about it like as question number 1 says, as if you were saying it to someone over the phone. So notice number 1. It says write the number. Oh goodness, who can pronounce that number? Raise your hand, pause the video, pronounce the number, and then start the video up again to see if you pronounced it correctly. So here we go. Pause the video. Okay, are you back? Okay, pronouncing the number. Remember how we talked about our numbers? Here's the millions family, the thousands family, and the units family. So I'm looking at this number. It's 2 million. Now I pronounce these 3 numbers together. 356,000. And then I pronounce these 3 numbers together. 189. So they want you to write it in words. How many of you think you can write it in words? I want you to try that right now. So pause the video while you try writing the word. Don't worry about your spelling, just try to be close. Okay, are you back? Let's look at this. So we'll start from this side. We know that we have 2 million. Look at that. I put the comma in. Notice that there is 2 million, comma. So here is 2 million, comma. Remember, million is like the last name. And the 2 is in the millions family, so it's 2 million. Let's slide a little bit more over. Here is our next family. I'm going to keep going till I find the next comma. Where is my comma? Well, there is my comma. So notice we have these three numbers, 356. So we pronounce, how would you pronounce this, 356 or 356? Notice I have it written, 356. There's a little hyphen there. 356,000. Remember, this is the millions family. This is the thousands family. Then we just need to pronounce the last three numbers. Okay, what do we have? 189. Uh-oh, no space there. Let's put a space in that. Have to correct that, you know. Okay, so there we go. 2,356,189. Notice that right here, 56 and 89 have hyphens in them. Right here, 56 and 89. Both of those contain hyphens. Okay, working on number 2. Expanded form. Your parents know it as expanded notation, but now it's called expanded form. Basically, what we're doing is we're looking at each place value, each digit, but we would pronounce each digit. I want you to pause the video and try doing this first. And then if you don't know how to do it, then when the video comes back on and you need to copy, if you have to copy this down, then copy it down. Okay, did you have some work time? Here we go. Let's see what's behind our shade. So, right there. We see our first number showing up. Oh my goodness, look how big that number is. Notice this, it's pronounced, this is in the 2 millions family. So we would write it as 2 million. Look what number comes next. Do you see the 3? That is in the thousands family, but if we pronounced it, it's 300,000. Remember, it's the 3 with its last name. 300,000. Okay, now we're to the 5. Again, this is in the thousands family, so we would have the 5 with its last name. But it's not 5,000, it is 50,000. Continuing to look at it. Now we're to the 6, it's still in the thousands family. And we have 6,000. Okay, moving on to this part, 189. Think about that, the hundreds, the tens, the ones. There's a 100, there's the 80, and there's the 9. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Oh, I bet you're happy to see that this next little shade is pretty small. Again, remember to pause the video whenever you need it paused. So we're moving on to number 3, and it tells us that we need to write this in numerals. What's a numeral? Raise your hand. What's a numeral? Pause it, have a discussion, and then come back to me when you're ready. Okay, so a numeral. A numeral is another way of writing number. So we're actually talking about the symbols that represent a number. So let's see how you did. Did you try doing this? Were you able to pronounce this part? See, here's our millions family and our thousands family, and then the units family, but we don't say units. Okay, so let's see how you did. I'm going to slowly move it. There's our 5,208,000. Uh-oh, I have this once done incorrectly. I'm going to pause the video and fix it. Okay, let's try that again. You know, it's really helpful to wear your glasses. You've been reading about that in reading class, so yes, I really should wear my glasses when I'm working, shouldn't I? So we know that we have the 5 million, then we have this, the thousand part, so we have 208. How would we write the number 208? Okay, let's look. 208,000. Then we have the next family, 672. Oh, isn't that nice of them to put a 72 in the number? So we have 672. Okay, so now we're going to do this again, and I want you to try to do this more by yourself, and then we'll see how you did. So this number 4 is saying to write this number. I'm not going to pronounce it for you, but they want you to do it in expanded form. If you can't remember what expanded form is, go up here and look. Which one of these, number 1, number 2, or number 3, shows expanded form? So you're supposed to try doing that. Then for number 5, see what we have? It says that we have this written like this, and they say you're supposed to write it in numbers. Which one of those is showing us how that we need to write it in numbers? Or remember the other word they used? Numerals. Okay. And then moving on to this last one. Write this as if you were saying it to someone over the phone. In other words, you're putting this all together to pronounce it. Okay, I don't think that there's another one on this page. Nope, that's it. So you're working on page 18 in case you didn't already know. Pause the video while you work on 4, 5, and 6 together or apart or however you're working on them in class, and then come back and join me and we'll go through the answers. Okay, did it take you real long? Were you checking out what you did in the questions above so that you had an idea how to do this? So if we're writing this, it says 5 million, comma, 208,672 in expanded form. Maybe you noticed how long of a shade I had put on here, but look at this. There is our 5 million. Now we're at the 200. We have to write 200,000. There's our last name, 1,000. Now we're to the next number, 8,000. So we had 200,000. Now we're at 8,000. Does your 8,000 look? Oh dear, that's right. I made a mistake earlier. I got to fix this. There, it's fixed now. So now that it looks like 8,000. Now we're moving on to the last family with the 672. There's our 600. There is the 70. And there is the 2. I'm going to get rid of the shade. Okay. Now, with this one, it's such a tiny little number. And you need to write this, putting it all together. So, I want you to look at this. Oh my goodness, look at that. There's our 700,000, and there's an 80,000, and a 9,000, and a 600, and a 50, and a 4. And when you have it written in expanded form, it's like you did this. So for those of you who have problems getting it an expanded form, back into a single number, you can do it as a really large adding problem. So you can look at this. All these zeros in the ones column plus 4 is a 4. All these zeros in the tens column is 50, so now we have 54. All the zeros in the hundreds column plus the 600 gives us 654. All the numbers in the thousands column equal 9, so now we have 9,654. Hey, did you notice how I could read it like that? 789,654. Kind of clever, huh? Well, let's see. Did you get that number? Sure enough, there it is. Okay, and the last one, writing this number as if you were going to say, but you have to say it in words, like if you were saying it to someone over the phone. Now, what I mean by that, you don't say that this number of 789,654 as 700,000, 80,000, 9,650, and 4. That's just not how you say numbers on the phone. So, I'm not too worried about your spelling, but please know that 8 and AT are two different words, where you have a Y on the end of the word 8 to make 80. Okay, so let's see how you did with your spelling. 789,000. There's our family. See the comma? Because that's only as big as 700,000. And then we have 654. Do you see the hyphen again? Okay, so you had a little bit of practice. We actually are going to work quite a bit with large numbers in a different unit, but this gave you a refresher course because, yes, I know we missed out on a lot of math, reading, and writing with last year's school year. So with the remaining time that you have in math, I want you now to play this game with a partner. After that, I believe you're doing social studies. So have fun with math and then enjoy your social studies. See ya.